Most people explain themselves because they want clarity. They want to be understood. They want tension to dissolve. They want the situation to feel stable again. And with the right people, explaining can do exactly that. But when explaining consistently makes things worse, when it escalates conflict, invites pushback, or leaves you feeling drained and uncertain, the issue isn't communication skill, it's nervous system dynamics. What feels like clear communication is often something else. It's an attempt to regulate discomfort by talking. When something feels misunderstood or tense, the nervous system looks for relief. Explanation feels like the fastest way to restore safety. If I can just clarify this clearly enough, things will calm down. For many people, this isn't a habit, it's a learned survival strategy. In environments where emotions were misunderstood, blame arrived quickly, or safety depended on being reasonable. Explanation became protection. Over time, the nervous system learned a rule. If I don't explain, something bad might happen. So explaining feels urgent, not because the situation requires it, but because your body does. When the nervous system is regulated, the brain seeks information. Language is processed through regions responsible for reasoning, perspective, and nuance. In that state, explanation works. But when a person feels emotionally threatened, even subtly, the brain shifts priorities. The threat detection system becomes dominant. The brain is no longer asking, "What does this mean?" It's asking, "Am I being challenged? Am I losing control? Is my position under threat?" In that state, language isn't processed as information, it's processed as intent. Trying to explain yourself to a dysregulated system is like negotiating with an alarm. More words don't soothe it. They signal engagement, and engagement keeps the alarm active. Each explanation adds stimulation. Each clarification adds material to analyze, resist, reinterpret, or push back against. What feels like helpful detail to one person can feel like pressure to another, not because the explanation is wrong, but because the nervous system hears it as, "I need you to agree. I need you to change. I need you to see this my way." At that point, explaining doesn't create clarity, it creates leverage. Over explaining shifts authority outward. Each time you explain repeatedly, you move from self trust to permission seeking. You signal that agreement is required for your boundary to stand. You reveal that misunderstanding destabilizes you. The interaction adapts to what gets reinforced. Pressure produces engagement. Engagement reinforces pressure. No malicious intent is required. The nervous system learns the pattern automatically. Control doesn't come from being right, it comes from pulling someone out of regulation. When you're dysregulated, logic weakens. Self-trust erodes. Relief becomes more important than accuracy. In that state, external framing carries more weight. That's why people sometimes walk away thinking, "Why did I agree to that?" This isn't weakness, it's biology. Silence is often misunderstood as withdrawal or avoidance, but regulated silence is neither. Regulated silence is the absence of unnecessary engagement. It removes stimulation, and without stimulation, threat systems lose fuel. Silence doesn't argue, it doesn't persuade, it doesn't escalate. It introduces something conflict never does: time without pressure. For many people, especially those with strong defensive patterns, this is what allows the nervous system to downshift. Later, sometimes much later, reflection becomes possible. Real conversation requires two regulated systems. You can't reason someone into calm, but you can refuse to escalate them. When you stay regulated, you don't mirror intensity. You don't reinforce pressure-based engagement. You don't negotiate your perception. Over time, dynamics adapt. When pressure no longer produces engagement, arguments shorten. Attacks lose frequency. Calm becomes the only access point. Not for everyone, but consistently enough to change your experience. Explaining yourself isn't a mistake, it's a skill. But it's a skill that only works when both nervous systems are online. When it doesn't work, that's not failure, it's information. Because clarity doesn't convince a dysregulated brain, safety does. If you've experienced conversations where explaining only made things worse, you're welcome to share what stood out to you.